Hello, and welcome to this edition of All About Hopkinton, the original HKM series created to bring you the people and organizations that help make our community the great place that it is. Sitting in for Mary Arnott, I'm Jim Cousins. There are a lot of groups out there and a lot of people dedicating their time, energy, and talents to improve some aspect of life in Hopkinton. I am privileged to be sitting here talking with them and sharing their stories with you. Joining me today is Amman Haidri of the Islamic Center of Hopkinton. Amman, thank you very much for taking the time to be here on our show.
Thank you for the opportunity, Jim.
All right, now before we talk about the center, I'd like to just hear a little bit about you. I'd like to hear your backstory and where you came from.
Sure, absolutely. So I moved to the United States when I was 18, originally from Pakistan, and I went to college in New Hampshire, and I graduated in '96. I have a finance background, and got married shortly after graduation. Moved to Michigan for quite a few years, but things just didn't work out there. I mean, I just there's something about New England that I missed, and so we finally decided to move back. And in 2004, my wife and me moved back to Boston. Mm-hmm. I was living up in the North Shore, close to the city. I just didn't like it there. It was just getting crowded. The schooling system wasn't very good. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to shop. We're shopping around to see what a good town is, and we visited Hopkinton quite a few times, visiting some friends. But we just fell in love with the town. I mean, it was just a great neighborhood with the great, the roads were beautiful, and there was a state park. The schooling was great. So it's just a perfect scenario. Mm-hmm. So we ended up buying our first home in 2004 or 5. And it's been home since then. My daughters grew up here. Mm-hmm. One just graduated from high school. She's off to college, and the other one's in middle school. So yeah, I mean, I can see myself in this community for a long time.
Yes, yeah. By the way, I know what you were missing about New England, and it had to be the fresh seafood.
It is, yeah, but that's what it is.
The best ever.
Absolutely.
So when you originally came here from Pakistan at 18, was it for college?
Yeah, so it was it was definitely for college. I had no idea what I thought. New Hampshire was like California. It would be a beach and everything. But yeah. I landed, in January when there was a snowstorm, and that was, as I started scratching my head, I was like, where did I end up myself into? It was challenging the first couple of years, but college life was just great. Mm-hmm. I had made some great friends, and I came to Boston every weekend, just hung out here. Yeah. So it took me quite a few years to adjust, to the culture and to think, but yeah. Back then everything was very easy. Everything was accessible. There were tools out there. There's education. Everything it was very easy to get things done there. Yeah. So I was focused. I knew what I was going to do, and in a pretty short time with the support of my friends, I somewhat made it. Still.
I grew up in Massachusetts, and I went to a Massachusetts college, and that was a big thing for me. I cannot even imagine going to a whole different country.
It was a culture shock, big culture shock for me. But they're memories that still live with me till today. Yes, yeah, absolutely.
And now, so have some of your family come over to America too?
Yep, absolutely. So I wouldn't say Hopkinton, more in the New England area. Mm-hmm. My mother has moved here too, and I have some cousins, I have some friends who moved here, and then my wife's family. They're all around this area, scattered in Pennsylvania, New York area, and Connecticut. So it's good we have the family support over here still. And on every occasion, we all get together. 30, 40 people just get together and just wow. So it's good to have family around.
That's awesome.
But they've all moved during the years.
Okay. Yeah. And so, what did you study? What are you doing? What's your career?
Yeah. So my background is finance. I've been in banking for 15 years. Mm-hmm. And just recently, I kind of stepped away from banking. It was it's a total different avenue. And so I recently joined a biotech company, startup biotech company. And let's see where that takes me from here. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say the path is very clear. It's a startup, but it's been challenging for me. But as far as my background is, I have a finance background. Yeah.
Okay. So now you've been in Hopkinton for over 10 years. Yep. And I know you do some volunteering for the town. Tell me about that.
Right. So this is the second term. I'm a member of the Affordable Housing Fund Trust Board in Hopkinton. You know, I had a friend who was a board member, and he said, "Amman, you know, we need volunteers too, and you know, would you consider this?" And I mean, there were quite a few options for me, but I specifically chose this one because, you know, I wanted to give back to the community. I mean, there, you know, the families out there, you know, everyone would like to move to great towns for a better future for their kids. So even if I could make a difference for one family, you know, I've done my part. So I joined the committee 6 years ago, and I was selected through the selectmen, the whole process. But you know, we don't have very frequent meetings. But you know, there's always a list that I try to educate some, you know, affordable families who live close by who like to move to Hopkinton.
Yep.
So I try to give them the direction, try to give them the opportunity. And there are some families who have moved here in some of these affordable homes, and they're just everyday hardworking people. Their kids have gone to schools, they graduated with honors, and then moved on. So, you know, if I could just make a change for one family, you know, at least I've done my bit.
Wow, that's awesome. All right, so now let's turn our attention to the Islamic Center in Hopkinton. How'd you get involved? How'd you find that place?
Yep. So when we first moved to Hopkinton, I knew that there was an Islamic center here, and so we somewhat wanted to be just close because I had a Sunday school, and I just, you know, get my kids a little bit involved. So 10 years ago, you know, I wasn't an active member. I was just going there a few times a month and all. But over the period of time, you know, my kids went to Sunday school there, and it just started growing. I got more and more involved in there, and I think in the last few years I've been a little bit more active in the Islamic Center, and you know, the community has grown. You know, we were 2 Muslim families, and now I think there are almost 8 Muslim families in Hopkinton. So I think over the period of time, I've got more and more involved in the Islamic Center.
Right, right. And so give me kind of an overview of, you know, like how many people go there and what your geographic footprint is.
Right. So I would say they are, you know, I classify them as the active members and the non-active members.
Sure.
But and active members would be, you know, on a given day would be anywhere from, you know, 80 to 100 people there, and then we have the non-active who would just come, you know, a few times a year, where, you know, there's an additional 40, 50 people. But I would say there are 10 families from Hopkinton, and then some surrounding from Natick, Newton, some surrounding areas, and but we have people coming all the way from Boston on special events, and from New Hampshire, from Connecticut too. So they come from all over. But I would say the most active people are just around the Hopkinton area.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And what's the staff like? What do you have for staff?
Yep. So it is. I mean, we have a governing body, and you know, they're elected members, and it's a 3-year term. We have the president, secretary, and the whole chain. But all the members and all the staff members are all volunteers.
All of them?
All of them. There's no salaried. The only salaried member is our priest, and he's supported by all the donations. But all the way from the president down to the youth, we're all volunteers.
Okay.
So it's good. I mean, you know, we can get a lot done, but I'm sure the salaried we can get more done too.
So, what role do you play there?
Right. So I was asked to be a part of the outreach committee, and I mean, we had members before, but I mean, I was a member for a while, but we didn't really do much. So the priest called me one day. He said, "Amman, you know, we've been very quiet for many years. You know, some people don't know that we have an Islamic center here. So let's try to you know, get more involved and more engaged, and let's try to join hands." So I've been, you know, I joined the outreach committee probably 3 years ago, 4 years ago. I've been active, and it took us a while to try to plan out something to see how we can start, you know, getting everyone involved. And we're 4 or 5 members in the outreach committee, and that's how I've started getting more involved and reaching out to our neighborhood. Yeah.
All right. And what happens at Center? What do you guys? What do you do?
Yep. Yeah. So it's I wouldn't really classify our center as a mosque. You know, it's not open 24/7 that you can pray 5 times a day. I would say it's more of an Islamic social community center. I mean, we have our traditional religious days that the priest comes 2 or 3 times a week and delivers a sermon. and it's catered to from youth all the way to, it's open to everyone, whoever, and all the lectures, I'd say most of the lectures are all delivered in English.
Okay.
So it's accessible. I mean, there's youth who don't understand other languages, so we've just kept it simple in English. And he just gives the basic sermons about about humanity, giving back to the community, and reaching out to our neighbors, and just to remind us, just to give us a reality check once in a while. And those are 2 or 3 times a week. And then we have the youth who come and they do a drive for the homeless shelter and all. And then we have the women committee, and my wife is actually involved in that. And they cook dinners at the center, then they take them to some homeless shelters, abused women shelters, and they serve food there too.
Okay.
So we've tried to just kept it very open, and anyone is welcome to to share their ideas over there, and we try to work on that too.
So a couple times a week you have a sermon,
Yep.
and then maybe like you go and help prepare some food for
Yep.
a homeless shelter and
Yep.
stuff.
Yep.
And then you mentioned Sunday school too?
Yes, so we have a Sunday school that is led by our priest, and we have almost 70 or 80 children who come there, and it's a 4 or 5 hour schooling that they provide over there, and it's just the basic. They teach about the faith, other faiths, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, and they teach about values, ethics, and just the basics for the kids. And it's it's 6 or 7 years Sunday school. I mean, they graduate after 6 years.
Okay.
And it's opened. Summers is closed, and winters we shut down. But Sunday school is very active, and we've seen more and more kids getting involved over it.
Right, right. So let's talk a little bit about some of the activities that you have participated in. I know a recent one would be the refugee forum that was just had.
Right. So we're very lucky that we had our neighbor at the St. Paul's Church, Reverend Gordon Schultz, who has just been wonderful. I mean, he's really extended his hand, and he really helped us coordinate everything. And I was actually at the refugee public hearing this weekend. And this is one event that we've done. And another thing that the last few months we've done is a lot of interfaith programs. Okay. We've involved a lot of these churches around in Hopkinton and the Jewish synagogue too. And we've had these clergy members come to our center. And they share. They've actually witnessed our prayers, or what we do there, and our speeches. And we've actually have an dialogue that we've had with all these Abrahamic faiths. They all share the input. We try to share our thoughts on everything. So we've just stepped into the interfaith programs, and I think we've reached out to all the churches in Hopkinton.
So, is the interfaith program at this point at the staff level, where staffing of church get together?
Absolutely not. The staff would more be the coordination, but this is done at the clergy level.
Okay.
So our priest, and it's all the clergymen, the pastors, the reverends, and the rabbis, they get together. So my work is trying to coordinate and get them all in one room.
I see.
And try to get the media out there and get an audience. But it's all done through the clergymen. Okay. So it's more very, very intense, but it's more of sharing their religion, all their faiths.
So you said get an audience. So what do they like? What does one of these meetings look like?
Yep.
Are you talking about your aspects of your religion, or?
Right. I mean, I would say the audience is. I mean, we have our audience, which I don't focus too much on, but it's we have had members from the church come to our center, and from the synagogues too. And so most of the discussions are the common similarities of all the religions. Yep. And how we all believe in the same, I would say in the same, all the prophets and just the basic things. Yep. And we don't go too much in detail. Okay. And absolutely, I mean, there are doubts out there that we like to clear with. I mean, we've had members from from other faiths come up to us, and they said, listen, I have this doubt in mind. Can you clear that for me? What is this all about? So we've actually started just clearing a lot of doubts. I mean, I don't blame. I don't, and I respect, and I hope that people do come up to us so we can actually share our thoughts with them too. But typically this is how these interfaces. There's a lot of Q&A session going on.
Yep.
And we asking the clergymen and back and forth. So it's a very good, healthy Q&A session.
Okay.
Yeah, that we have.
All right. So now let's talk a little bit about the refugee crisis.
Yep.
Because I know you have a lot of really good thoughts on that. So tell me what you thought of the event that just happened, and then what you think about the larger refugee crisis going on.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? Again, I was a migrant, and I had enough resources here and education that I made it by myself. I didn't get a lot of support. But not everyone is like that. I mean, we have refugees who are coming in. We have some refugees who come to our center too. They don't speak a word of English. They've been here for a year. They don't have a license. So they're just deprived of the basic necessities, And I've attended a lot of these refugees seminars, talks. It's wonderful. They have great ideas, but I think we lack the execution part. And we can do our small bit by just right at a micro level. Giving back to refugees. How can you do it? I think that's the biggest. And I've had people come to me. How can I help?
Yes.
Some of these refugees who come, they don't speak English. They come from different background, culture, and it's really difficult for someone like you to even engage with them. My advice to everyone is, I mean, there's some great refugee agencies, Howard, in Worcester area at least, and we work with one of them, Essentia, and there's two other agencies out there. I think that would be a great starting point for everyone to even just lend a hand over there too. There's so much to work to be done over there. Just by simple, just by visiting them, and they can even give you a whole list of things that you can. I mean, if you like to give back, I mean, there's a list of basic like toothbrushes. They need towels, toilet paper, just basic thing like that. So if I would definitely say that if you want to give back, reach out to one of these agencies. They can really give you a lot of insight.
Yeah, even like because that's one thing honestly that I would worry about. I'd worry about a language barrier. I would worry about like how to interact and things like that. So like beyond helping to provide some of the basic needs like toothbrushes and stuff. What else? What would be an example or two of something that somebody could do?
You can do, yeah. So when these refugees come here, they're just overwhelmed. They have, they love this country. They want to learn more. So even by just going up, sitting with the kids, taking them out, just for a burger or for ice cream, that would go a long way for them. You can even somewhat just adopt a child over there. And just to frequently visit them and spend time with them. Yeah. And you can even invite them to your homes, and they love that. There's some friends of mine, Americans, they've just opened the doors to those refugees. And that goes a long way. And
so Amman, I really like that, but how do I deal with if there's a language barrier?
You will have a problem with that. So you'll have to go through the agency. Actually, there are people there who can could help you with the language. And most of them are coming from the Middle East. I don't speak the language there too, so it's difficult for me to even relate to them too. They speak broken English too, so I have to get actually people there who work with us, and they can translate everything over there too.
I see.
But language is a problem too, not only for you, even for someone, for me too.
Okay. All right, so obviously I can see, you're really passionate about this, and it's definitely a refugee crisis. What other things could you point to that the center has done recently? Because you've talked a lot about outreach and connecting with the community.
Yep, absolutely, yeah. So we are trying to actually get our youth involved, because we have the youth who are going to high school here. And there have been some unfortunate incidents that our kids have actually faced it in high school too. So we've sat down with the youth, and we've tried to work like a youth interfaith with their friends in schools too. There's one project that we're really stressing on, and we're trying to get our youth to go and do a cleanup in the town of Hopkinton.
Yeah.
You know, with other churches and cleaning them in snow, you know, helping with the snow removal and all. That once that's a small project. And then the women also getting together and they're really giving back to, like on Thanksgiving Day, on Christmas Day, you know, we cook big meals, and it requires a lot of planning, you know, and not everyone's giving time, but these are small things that we like to do, mini projects all along the way.
Right.
Yeah.
And I do believe you recently were at Town Hall, invited by the Democratic Committee here in town.
Yeah, yeah,
What was that like?
yeah, that was yeah. We just they were great. I mean, it was a wonderful experience. We had an event here at the town hall, and they invited our priest to actually stand up, and there's a lot of the community members there, and it was a strictly Q&A session. And he was bombarded with questions all the time, but I think it was great. It cleared a lot of doubts, and it kind of opened the doors for a lot of the community members here in Hopkinton. And I thank them that they actually held an event like that. But I wish that we can even have more events like that. I mean, I've tried to engage the town of Hopkinton too. You know, there's a protocol that I have to follow. You know, and it's not that easy to overcome that. But I'm pretty confident that some of the selectmen and the town officials, they're willing to work with us. And but instances like this, we're trying to get more of the town officials now getting involved.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah. I mean the police, the fire, they've just been great. I mean when on a big events, the police just. You know, they're always there helping us. They always patrol around the area. So we like to give back and get the community involved.
Yes, I know that our news team was there recording at Town Hall that day, and it looked like there were quite a few people there.
Yeah, quite a few people. I wasn't expecting that, you know, but it was very nice of them to actually have hosted this event for us too. Yeah. And I'm hoping, and I think in the next coming months too, we're going to have similar events like that too at the town hall too. Absolutely.
So going back, you mentioned how there had been some difficult situations in the schools with some of the kids, and you also mentioned earlier about having had interactions with people who had questions about your faith and what's going on. Is that difficult? How does that go?
You know, Jim, it is difficult. I mean, I work in the corporate, world, and there are educated people who still come up to me with the basic questions. I don't blame anyone. I don't blame the children. I don't blame parents. They just believe what they see in the with due respect in the media. Yep. You know, they pick up the paper and it is a sense of like a threat to them. But going back to the high school, I mean, there were a couple of incidents that were, my daughter came up to me one day and she said, this kid, I mean, he said so and so. I don't want to announce it. Yeah. But that is, I mean, I don't blame the kids at all. That's what they see. But we have to educate our people. Right. And we have to try to spread the word. I have people coming all the time to me, and I've always told them, I said, listen, if you have a question, feel free to come to our mosque. We have a priest. He's the expert. I'm not an expert in religion at all, but have him, and he can give you references, and we can give you a lot of open, communication. Right. So I would. That's how I usually direct them to our center. Okay. Yeah.
So as a member of the outreach committee. By the way, how'd you get on the outreach committee? Oh, God. You got a finance background.
It wasn't by choice, definitely. But I had a friend of mine, and he said, "Amman, you're engaged in the community. You know the town officials and all. So try to get your contacts, and let's try to reach out to them, and let's get them involved." Yeah. So I was 5 years ago. They put me on the committee. I didn't really do much. But after what's been happening in the media, and I was like, what, it's time for me to step it up and give back to the community. So I started getting involved. I mean, I have some friends who are with me. We work great together, and with my few contacts I have here in the town of Hopkinton, that's how I got involved and got the churches involved, and that's how we got the ball rolling. But but I think it was probably the best opportunity for me. And I've done, at least I'm trying to do my part, being a resident in Hopkinton, and to trying to give back to the community.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we've talked a bit about some of the interfaith efforts and outreach that's going on. So what would you think that you'll be seeing in the next 5 years or so?
Yeah.
How will it grow?
You know, ultimately, my goal, or rather our goal, is to to spread the word of peace, and join hands and just have the perfect scenario that get everyone involved, but it's really hard for me to predict that. Again, as I mentioned before, every time we see something tragic, it pushes us back, and it gets more challenging for us to catch up. So ultimately, I think we just all have to stay focused, and we have to get more of the community involved. And what I mean by community is our neighbors, our friends of the town of Hopkinton, Ashland, and we start spreading the word. And we want to keep it like an open door policy. Anyone can walk in, see what's happening and coming. I mean, we've had some some problems there too, but I would say that I see ourselves growing and having a solid name out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Amman, it's been a great program. Our time is up, and I would really like to thank you for coming down and sharing all this information with us.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you
all right.
very much.
And thank you for joining us for this program and hearing about Amman Haidri and the Islamic Center in Hopkinton. For more information about the center, you can email Amman at the email address that is on the screen. And for more information concerning All About Hopkinton, find us on hcam.tv. If you or someone you know is having an impact on our community, we want to hear about it. Send an email to jim@hcam.tv, and perhaps you'll see them sharing their story right here on All About Hopkinton. Sitting in for Mary Arnott, I'm Jim Cousins. Thanks for watching.
HCAM TV showing movies.
That's right. Dive-In Drive-In's a new show on HCAM.
Join Mike and I as we present some B movies.
Movies that have piqued the two Mike's interest.
And not to mention, they're also free.
We'll give you some interesting tidbits about the cast and crews.
And point out some of the reasons these are classic B films.
So check out the HCAM TV website at hcam.tv for movie days and showtimes.